My brother got my fiancée pregnant, mocked me behind my back, and my family expected me to raise his child. I'm a 32-year-old man, and I was engaged to Kay, who's 29. We'd been together for 3 years, lived together, and I already had a 4-year-old son from a previous relationship. Things weren't perfect, but I thought we were okay. I had this image in my head, my son finally having a brother, me getting a second chance to build the family I always wanted. The simple stuff, the kind of future most men hope for. Then, 3 weeks ago, Kay found out she was pregnant. At first, I was thrilled. I thought this was the next chapter, the moment everything would fall into place. But instead of bringing us closer, the pregnancy pushed her further away. The day after she told me, she started acting distant, quiet, always on her phone. I thought maybe she was overwhelmed and just needed time to process the news. So I gave her space. That's what you're supposed to do, right? But that space turned into long nights, ignored questions, her phone always face down or on silent. Every time I asked her how she felt about the baby, she gave me vague, one-word answers, like I was bothering her just by caring. My gut told me something was off, but I didn't want to believe it. I kept ignoring it, convincing myself I was overthinking. Then came the night that changed everything. Kay left her laptop open while she was in the shower. I'm not the type to snoop, but when I saw a message pop up with my brother's name, M, and a flirty emoji, my stomach dropped. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened the conversation, and what I saw froze me in place. They weren't just chatting. They had been seeing each other secretly for months. The more I read, the worse it got. They mocked me, laughed about how stupid I was for not figuring it out. They planned their hookups while I was at home putting my son to bed. Kay even told him about the pregnancy before she told me. She shared details with him she hadn't shared with me. And they laughed about how stressed I would be raising 2 kids. The ground opened beneath me. M is my older brother, the golden child, the one who always stole attention with his confidence and charm. I grew up living in his shadow, but this wasn't just him being the favorite. He crossed a line no brother should ever cross. I didn't sleep for days after that. I cycled between anger, disbelief, and wanting revenge. They wanted to make me look like a fool? Fine. But I wasn't going to let them walk away clean. There was a family gathering coming up at my parents' house to celebrate Kay's pregnancy. The irony wasn't lost on me. That's where I decided I'd expose them. No private conversations. No quiet breakups. Everything needed to come out in the open, where they couldn't deny or spin it. So, I gathered everything. Screenshots of their messages, timestamps, all of it. I even printed out the worst ones just in case. I wasn't going to give them a chance to deny anything. The next day, I woke up with fear and adrenaline pumping through me. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff about to jump, not knowing if I'd land safely or crash. The thought of Kay and M laughing behind my back gave me the strength to keep going. At my parents' house, the gathering was already in full swing. My mom was in the kitchen, preparing food with Kay by her side. Seeing them together made my blood boil. Kay looked calm, comfortable, laughing at something my mom said. As if she hadn't been secretly destroying my life. And there was M, sprawled on the couch, looking smug like he always did. That arrogance nearly pushed me over the edge right then, but I held back. Not yet. I wanted an audience. When dinner was served, we all sat around the table. My mom chatted happily about becoming a grandmother again. Kay sat across from me. M sat a few seats down, eating like nothing was wrong. Midway through the meal, the conversation dipped. That was my moment. I put down my fork, cleared my throat, and got everyone's attention. There's something I need to share about Kay and M, I said, my voice steady, even though my heart was pounding. Kay's eyes went wide. The color drained from her face. M sat up straighter, his cocky attitude slipping. My mom looked confused, but my dad's face hardened. He knew something serious was coming. I've kept this to myself for weeks, but I can't anymore. Kay and M have been seeing each other behind my back. It didn't stop after we got engaged. Not even after she found out she was pregnant. The room exploded with gasps. My mom covered her mouth. My dad clenched his jaw. Kay looked like she was about to cry. M's face flickered between anger and surprise. I have proof, I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the folder. Here are their messages. Here's how they mocked me. I read some of the worst ones aloud. Kay buried her face in her hands, sobbing. It's not what it looks like, she cried. I didn't want this to happen. I laughed bitterly. You didn't want to get caught, I snapped, pushing back my chair. This is ridiculous, Em said, trying to sound calm. We don't have to do this here. I glared at him. You don't get to decide where this happens. You betrayed me. And you thought I'd just let it slide? Not this time. Before anyone could react, Em lunged and punched me in the shoulder, but I barely felt it. Rage carried me. I swung back, hitting him square in the jaw. Chaos broke out. My dad jumped in to separate us. My mom screamed for us to stop. I shoved Em against the wall, yelling, "You ruined my life! You had everything, and the family adored you. And still you had to take what was mine." Em smirked, blood trickling from his lip. Maybe if you'd been man enough to make her happy, this wouldn't have happened. That was it. I threw another punch, but my dad stepped in, pushing me back. "Enough!" he yelled. "Both of you sit down." I stood there breathing hard, fists clenched. Kay sobbed uncontrollably. My mom cried, begging me to calm down. Em wiped his mouth and smirked again, but stayed quiet. You knew better, I muttered. Then I turned to Kay, trembling in her chair. It's over, I said coldly. Be with him if that's what you want. But don't expect me to be part of this ever again. I grabbed my phone and walked out. Behind me, Kay was crying. My mom was calling after me, but I didn't stop. I'd done what I came to do. The truth was out. No going back. I drove home, adrenaline still surging. Replay after replay of what just happened ran through my head. Kay's tear-streaked face, Em's smirk, my dad stopping me. None of it felt satisfying, just bitter. When I got home, my son was still at a friend's house, so the place was quiet. Normally, I'd welcome the peace, but that night, the silence felt suffocating. Just weeks ago, I'd been planning a future with Kay, excited about the baby. Now I didn't even know who she really was. My phone buzzed. Kay, 3 messages in 5 minutes. Please, we need to talk. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I ignored them. I couldn't listen to her excuses. Instead, I opened the folder of screenshots. Each message reminded me how little they respected me. I felt the anger rising again, but I forced myself to stay in control. I had a son who needed me. Falling apart wasn't an option. The following days blurred together. Work, school runs, trying not to think about Kay or Em, but Kay didn't stop texting. Voicemails, messages, begging me to talk. Em stayed silent. My mom called daily, begging me to meet and talk things through. But talk about what? They destroyed everything. No apology would change that. 2 weeks after that dinner, Kay showed up at my door. I wasn't expecting it. For a second, I considered not opening, but the knocking went on, and I didn't want my son, napping upstairs, to wake. I sighed and opened the door. Kay stood there, eyes red and puffy, hair a mess, clutching a crumpled tissue in a small bag. Can we talk? She asked, voice trembling. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. What do you want? I asked coldly. She sniffled, wiped her nose. Can we fix this, please? I know I messed up, but we can get through this. For the baby. I almost laughed at how desperate she sounded, but anger kept me stone cold. Fix this? You think we can fix this? I shook my head and stepped aside. Fine. Say what you have to say. She walked in, set her bag on the couch, and faced me, looking terrified. Okay, she started. When I found out I was pregnant, I panicked. And, he was there, and I made a mistake. But it didn't mean anything. I love you, she said. I scoffed. Love me? You sure have a funny way of showing it. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Do you know how long I spent going over everything, wondering how I could have been so blind? You didn't just cheat on me, Kay. You mocked me. You made me a joke. Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, she whispered. Please don't do this. Don't throw everything away. I didn't throw anything away, I snapped. You did. And don't bring up the baby as if it's some magic Band-Aid that's going to fix this. For all I know, that baby isn't even mine. Her face crumbled, and she shook her head desperately. It's yours. I swear, I didn't believe her anymore. Then prove it, I said coldly. Get a paternity test. Until then, don't expect me to believe a single word you say. She broke down, crying so hard she could barely stand. I stood there watching her fall apart, but I didn't move to comfort her. I couldn't. I had nothing left to give her. After a few minutes, she wiped her face, grabbed her bag, and whispered, I will get the test. before turning and walking out the door. I closed the door behind her and locked it, leaning my forehead against the wood. My hands were shaking, and I could feel everything crashing down on me again, but I didn't let it show. I wasn't going to give her that power. 3 days later, M showed up at my house, banging on the door just like Kay had. But this time I was ready. When I opened the door, he was standing there with that same arrogant expression, as if he thought he could talk his way out of anything. "We need to talk," he said, trying to barge in as if nothing had happened. I blocked his way. "No, we don't. I know about the paternity test," he said, ignoring my attempt to stop him. "Do you really think dragging this out is going to help you?" My blood was boiling. Dragging this out? You think I'm the one dragging this out? You were the one who slept with my fiancée, and you still have the nerve to come here like everything is fine? He smirked, and that was all it took. I lunged at him. My fist connected with his jaw. We stumbled backward onto the porch, exchanging blows until a neighbor ran over to separate us. "Get away from me, both of you." "It's over," I spat. M wiped the blood from his lip and let out a bitter laugh. "You are never going to be able to walk away completely, brother." Not with a child involved, I didn't answer. I just watched him walk down the driveway, get into his car, and speed off. As I walked back inside and locked the door, I realized he was wrong. I could walk away from them, at least from the two of them. All I had left to do now was wait for the results and decide what my next step would be. I spent the next few weeks in limbo, waiting for the paternity test results. Time crawled by as if someone had put my life in slow motion. Every day felt like a countdown, either to freedom or to another trap I'd be caught in. I told myself I didn't care what the results were, that I was prepared for anything. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. If the baby wasn't mine, I'd be free from the mess of K and M. But if it was, it would mean a lifetime of forced co-parenting with K, always looking over my shoulder in case M decided to weasel his way back in. I buried myself in work, trying to distract myself from the thoughts that crept in at night. My son became my anchor, the one thing keeping me grounded when the weight of everything threatened to pull me under. We spent our weekends building Lego towers, baking disastrous cookies, and watching animated movies on repeat. Those moments reminded me I wasn't completely broken, even though it felt like my world had been shattered. Kay tried to contact me several times, but I ignored most of her messages. The few I did reply to were strictly logistical: doctor appointments, updates on the baby's health, and the timeline for the test results. She wasn't as insistent as before, probably because she knew she didn't deserve my attention until she had answers. M, on the other hand, had remained silent since our fight. I didn't care either way. Then finally, the day arrived. I was at work when the email notification popped up on my phone. My hands started shaking as I opened it. For a moment, I couldn't focus on the words in front of me. I forced myself to take a deep breath and read the results slowly. Paternity result, 0%. I stared at the screen, letting the words sink in. The baby was not mine. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest, but at the same time, I felt a hollowness in my stomach. I had spent months preparing to be a father again, convincing myself that no matter how bad things were with Kay, I was going to take care of the baby, and now that responsibility was gone, but it didn't feel like the victory I thought it would be. I left work early and drove home in silence, my mind racing. The thought of seeing either of them made my stomach churn, but I knew I couldn't avoid this forever. When I got home, I picked up my phone and sent a message to Kay, telling her we needed to talk right away. She replied within minutes, agreeing to come over. She probably thought I was going to give her another chance, or that I'd agree to raise the baby amicably. But this wasn't about reconciliation. This was about closure. When she arrived, she looked nervous. I didn't offer her a seat. I stood in the living room with my arms crossed, waiting for her to say something. She cautiously asked me if everything was all right, but I simply held up my phone with the paternity test results still displayed on the screen. Her face paled, and she took a step back when I told her I had received the results. Her voice trembled as she asked what they said, but she already knew the answer. I told her the baby was not mine, that it was M's. Her eyes filled with tears, but I was beyond feeling any compassion. "Did you know there was a possibility the baby wasn't mine? And yet you let me believe it was because it was easier for you," I said. She sobbed. I stood there silently, waiting for her to finish. When she finally looked up, she asked me what was going to happen now. "What happens now," I said, "is that you leave here and sort things out with them." "I told you I am done." She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised a hand to stop her. "It is over. Don't call me. Don't text me. You made your choices. Now deal with the consequences." She nodded, defeated, and without another word walked out the door. I watched her go, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. This chapter of my life was finally over, but the scar it left would take time to heal. I had my son, my job, and a future that no longer included her betrayal. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. Over the next few months, I heard updates about their lives through family and mutual friends. M had started using drugs. Nothing too heavy at first, but enough to be noticeable. He was no longer the golden child. The same relatives who used to praise him now couldn't hide their disappointment. Kay, meanwhile, was facing the reality of being with someone who wasn't as charming or perfect as he seemed when they were sneaking around. I stayed out of it all, focused on myself and my son. Work became more than just a paycheck. It became my purpose. I'd been working at a small tech startup for years, but after everything that happened, I poured my energy into excelling. I volunteered for projects no one else wanted, stayed late to meet deadlines, and proposed creative solutions in meetings. My effort didn't go unnoticed. Within 6 months, I was promoted to project manager, overseeing a team and handling important clients. It felt good to be recognized. But more than anything, it gave me the financial stability and confidence I needed to rebuild my life. With my new position, I moved to a better neighborhood and got my son into a great school. Our weekends were filled with trips to parks, museums, and even weekend getaways. I made sure he had a stable and happy environment, something I hadn't been able to fully provide before. Seeing him smile without a care in the world reminded me that I had made the right decision by cutting K&M out of our lives. I also made time for myself. I reconnected with old friends, started going to the gym regularly, and even took up hiking as a new hobby. My days weren't perfect, but they were mine, and that made all the difference. Then, about a year after the breakup, something unexpected happened. I met someone. Let's call her R. We met at a housewarming party for a mutual friend. What started as a casual conversation about travel turned into exchanging numbers and daily messages. Rachel was everything Kay was not: genuine, supportive, and kind. She didn't play games with my emotions or make me doubt myself. She encouraged me, respected my boundaries, and was as passionate about life as I was becoming again. We took things slow, but as the months passed, it became clear she was different. She loved spending time with my son and treated him like he was part of her world without overstepping. Seeing them bond melted my heart in a way I didn't think possible after the disaster with Kay. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had someone by my side who truly deserved to be there. Meanwhile, Kay and M's lives continued to fall apart. Kay had the baby, but M wasn't taking any responsibility. From what I heard, he came and went, made promises he didn't keep, and disappeared when things got tough. Their relationship, if you could even call it that, was in shambles. M's drug use had escalated, and he was no longer the charming guy who knew how to get his way. He was now a burden, and Kay was left to deal with the consequences. Family gatherings became awkward. Kay would show up alone, avoid eye contact, and keep conversations short. My mom, out of pity, tried to convince me to talk to her, but I refused. I had built something better for myself, and I wasn't going to risk it by reopening old wounds. The news about K&M didn't affect me the way it used to. In fact, it only served as a reminder of how far I had come. Final update. Months passed, and my life continued to improve in ways I never imagined. My work was thriving. The startup I had joined years ago was now growing rapidly, and I had been promoted to senior project manager. I was overseeing major projects, negotiating deals with high-profile clients, and making more money than I ever had. I had even started saving for a family vacation with R and my son, something that felt surreal considering where I was a year ago. R and I had grown closer. She had become a pillar in my life, someone I could rely on without having to question her intentions. We spent our weekends hiking, trying new restaurants and binge-watching shows after putting my son to bed. She fit perfectly into my life. Simply put, I was happy. And then, as if the universe wanted to remind me how far I had come, the news arrived. My brother M had been arrested and was in jail for drug possession and trafficking. The family group chat was ablaze with messages, most of them filled with disbelief and disappointment. My mom called me, her voice distraught as she tried to understand how her golden boy had fallen so low. They say he's been at it for months. What are we going to do? She asked, her voice breaking. I didn't have an answer for her, and the truth was I didn't care. M had made his choices, and now he was paying the consequences. Kay wasn't doing much better. I heard through acquaintances and family updates that her life was also falling apart. She had moved back in with her parents because she couldn't afford rent or bills on her own. M had disappeared, leaving her to raise the baby alone. The weight of her decisions was finally crushing her, and I can't say I felt sorry for her. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen helping R prepare dinner when the doorbell rang. I wiped her hands on a towel and went to answer it. I heard the door open, followed by a moment of silence. I quickly walked over, and there was Kay standing on my porch looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red and puffy. For a moment, she looked like she was going to collapse. Or at least she looked at me with a questioning expression. I nodded, and without a word, she went upstairs to give us some space. Kay gave me a broken smile and said, "Looks like you found someone new." I looked at her coldly. "Why are you here?" Her voice trembled. "I don't know where else to go. I need your help. Please, I cannot do this alone. I cannot afford daycare or the bills. My parents are helping, but it is not enough. Em is gone and I don't know what to do." Her voice cracked at the end, but I was not moved. The memories of her betrayal were all I could see when I looked at her. She ruined my life once and now she was coming to me for compassion. "So, let me see if I understand correctly," I said, my tone neutral but laced with sarcasm. "You slept with my brother, lied about the baby being mine, watched my life fall apart, and now you want me to come and fix yours." She flinched. "But I wasn't finished. You ruined my life. But now that your perfect plan has gone to hell, you suddenly remember me and want my help." "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I was stupid." I did not think. I interrupted her. "I do not want to hear any of this. It does not mean anything to me anymore. And now you are here at my door expecting me to clean up the mess you and M made. I'm sorry, Kay, but I do not have an ounce of compassion left for you. I look at you now and I feel nothing but contempt." Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't waver. She started pleading again. "For the sake of the baby. I know he is not yours, but you are the only one who cared." I shook my head, my expression stony. "I cared when I thought he was mine, but he is not. And you made sure of that." She looked like she was about to fall to her knees, but held herself up. "I have no one else. I do not know what to do." "Then figure it out, Kay," I replied coldly, just like I had to figure out what to do when you and M destroyed my life. "Go to your parents, ask them for help, but do not ever show up here again." She opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand, stopping her. I told her to leave and never come back. She stood there for a moment, tears running down her face before turning and walking away. I watched her disappear down the driveway, and as I closed the door, I felt nothing but relief. I came back downstairs. R asked if everything was all right. I nodded, smiling, and hugged her. "Yes, everything is all right." As we sat down to finish dinner, I realized how lucky I was. I had a woman who loved me, a son who was thriving, and a life that had only gotten better since Kay and M were out of it. I did not need to worry about their misery. That was their burden to carry, not mine. Mine was to make sure I never let anyone like them into my life again.